Thank you everyone for joining us today for this panel discussion on ethical challenges in the food service industry. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this very exciting panel session that is held in collaboration between the Laidley Center of Business Ethics and BeaverTails. My name is Dr. Pratika Joshi. I'm an assistant professor in the accounting area at Desautels Faculty of Management, and I'm one of the organizers of today's event. I would like to start by acknowledging that McGill University is located on land which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange among indigenous people, including the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe nations. McGill honors, recognizes, and respects these nations as the traditional stewards of the land and waters on which we meet today. Now, I would like to invite our Associate Dean of Undergraduate Programs, Benjamin Coutreau, to say a few words.
Hi, good afternoon, bonsoir tout le monde. Bienvenue à la faculté de gestion des hôtels. So it's my pleasure to welcome you all. So I'd like to acknowledge that we have here David Laidley, who helped us start the Laidley Center for Business Ethics, which is, very important. We see a huge amount of interest for this type of issues among our students. So thanks for your support. And I would also like to extend a special welcome to the 8 teams of undergraduate students from 6 universities in North America that are participating in our second, I believe, business ethics case competition. And we're excited because this year, I understand, is the first time that we have a team from the US, from outside of Canada, making this an international competition. All right, so before the actual competition starts, we're going to have a panel with 4 exciting restaurateurs from Montreal that will talk about the connection between sustainability and ethical challenges in the food service industry. Okay, so this is something I was very honored to be asked to give a few remarks. So I thought, what am I going to talk about as a finance professor? It's not my natural topic to talk about. And then I realized, well, I love to eat. So I should be able to find some, as you may be able to tell, so I should be able to find something to say. And I realized, well, I love to eat and I love to travel. And when I travel, one of the first things I try to do when I go to a new place is experience the unusual food products that might be available. So for example, when I traveled to Japan for the first time about 15 years ago, one of the first things I did was try fugu, which is the fish that can kill you, that's deadly if it's not prepared properly. Okay, and 15 years later, I'm still alive. So hopefully it was prepared, it looks like it was prepared properly. Okay, and then in other places, other countries that I'm not going to mention, well, my curiosity in the realm of food, led me to eat animals such as scorpions, starfish, and eggs, etc. And then sometimes it led to ethical dilemmas because, well, what am I supposed to do when I'm offered dog meat? Okay, and I'm not going to say, please don't ask me what I did. But more seriously, I try to think about the connection between ethics and food. And, well, could I find something relevant to say as a finance professor? So how do I think about ethics as a finance professor, especially when I teach investments? And I can see at least a couple of my former students here. Well, one thing, I'm talking under your control. One thing is that when I teach, I try to be honest. And I tell students that, sadly, maybe, ethical behavior is not always rewarded in investing. Okay, and there's an example I give students that probably the one stock in international stock markets that has done the best in the very long term is, does anybody have an idea? Philip Morris, the tobacco company. Okay, so I tell people, I try to be honest to students, you know. I don't think that being ethical necessarily, I mean, yes, it can make sense from a financial point of view as a form of risk management, okay, because certainly when companies behave ethically, well, that can certainly spare a lot of potential trouble, but it's not always rewarded by higher profits, higher return. But I also tell people that, you know, despite being a finance professor, and, you know, despite telling students, well, you're supposed to look at your expected return, your average return, your level, your quantitative level of risk, those numbers do not tell the whole story. Okay, I think it's very important, well, to be able to look at yourself in the mirror when you go to, or before going to work, or before making your investment decisions. So return isn't everything. I believe that investing is not just about the figures, about the numbers. It's also about wellness, about feeling financially secure, and it's also about well, feeling that you're doing something that is right, that agrees with your values, and I believe that's how you can be happy and feel good. So what's the connection with food? Well, I was just telling you, I think that investing in finance is not just about dollars and numbers. It's also about your own well-being and the planet's well-being. Well, we all know that the decisions that you make in terms of food have a huge impact on your own well-being. Okay, so that's what of course, mostly I don't have time to, and I'm not the right person to tell people, to tell students when I teach how they should eat. But despite being a finance professor, very quantitatively oriented, I believe that numbers, financial numbers, don't tell the whole story. And ethics is important, well-being is important, and those things are intimately related. All right, so, well, that's food for thought. Not quite as good as the actual food you're going to receive a little later this evening, but that's the best I could do, I'm afraid. So let me introduce more than the speaker, my colleague, Daphne Demetry. Who's a professor in the strategy and organization area, who joined the faculty in 2017 from Northwestern University, where she got her PhD, and Oxford, where she did a postdoc. She teaches entrepreneurship in the faculty, and in her research, she explores how entrepreneurs create meaning, with a special focus on creative fields and especially the culinary industry. Okay, so definitely she sounds like the right person for this round table, for this panel. And before that, I was asked to remind something more prosaic. I was asked to remind the competing teams that the order of presentations for the case competition will be drawn at 8 p.m. at the registration desk. So you probably don't want to miss that. Thank you, and I hope you have a great evening. Bonne soirée.
Thank you, Benjamin. All right, let's get this party started and start to get hungry. So I'm going to introduce our distinguished panelists, and one by one, just like a game show, you will come up here and collect your microphone. So first we have Pino di Ioia, who is actually got his MBA here at McGill and is the CEO and owner of BeaverTails. Welcome. And next to join us is Jonathan Metcalfe, who's the co-owner of Tuck Shop in St. Henri. Welcome, Jonathan. And then we have Paul Toussaint, who is the head chef and owner of his own restaurant, Kamúy, and also closer to us, I believe, has a restaurant in the Time Out Market, correct?
Yes.
Yes, awesome.
Two in Time Out.
Oh, okay. And then finally, Renée Deschenes, who is the chef and co-owner of La Franquette. So we will get started by each of you will spend about 10 minutes sort of telling us a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and also you were asked before this panel to think of one ethical challenge that you are commonly thinking about in the restaurant industry. So you'll spend a minute or two with that, and so we'll start with Renee.
Hello. Is this thing on? I'm actually not the chef of my restaurant. I'm the front of house managing partner. My partner, Louis, is the chef. You'd be hard pressed to get me to make anything other than scrambled eggs. So, just to be clear. I'm Renée Deschenes. Like I said, I have a restaurant in Westmount called Bistro La Franquette, where we are a 45-seat French influence, I would say, as farm to table as we can be restaurant. We opened in 2020, so that was during COVID. We did 6 months of takeout only, and so what we brought for everyone to enjoy today is kind of a throwback to that time, which was our house jambon beurre sandwiches with house ham, house baguette, and house butter. So hopefully everyone enjoys those later. My trajectory in restaurants, well, prior to restaurants, I studied classical violin until the age of 23, pretty much exclusively, and then decided that that was not the life that I wanted, and did a hard pivot into humanities and finished my degree in anthropology and sociology. So if anyone is studying anthropology and sociology, I look forward to receiving your CVs in a couple years. But jokes aside, I then went from being a busser in a terrible restaurant in the Old Port to being a beverage director at one of the top 10 new restaurants in Canada of 2019, and then went on to open my own place. I think that what drew me to restaurant work, well, it worked for me in ways that other work didn't, and I didn't think anything of it until, several years later, in terms of like what drew me to that kind of work and why. And I think that I started to investigate why in the last few years and identify heavily with traits of ADHD and ASD, which can be extremely useful in the work that we do. So my topic of discussion touches on neurodivergence and substance abuse in the restaurant industry. I'd like to include a trigger warning, as there will be mention of suicide. It's no secret that this kind of work attracts people that may not be suited to a 9-to-5 lifestyle for many different reasons. As I said, people with ADHD, being able to channel an intense moment of hyper-focus into extreme productivity for an entire day and get a week's worth of work done can be a blessing. ASD also can serve well in a restaurant. Creating systems based on logic and efficiency are a super necessary part of that. And then there's also rampant depression, anxiety, and other mental illnesses in our community, which often end up being self-medicated when other resources are scarce or unavailable. I would say as well that the schedule that we can have, that restaurants afford us, give people the capability to keep up a somewhat quote-unquote functional habit while maintaining a source of income. So I think that it's a place where those issues can often only get worse. But these also overlap a ton. So this creates challenges in managing people, both as a manager, but also, I think, as we get older and learn more about ourselves, in managing yourself within that. And that being said, it remains a business, and so the human element does have to be balanced with the bottom line. So I guess what I'm trying to distill is that where do we draw the line when it comes to problem behavior, because there is a lot of turning a blind eye to it, such as, drinking at work, especially in like nightlife and restaurants, is like somewhat encouraged, but some people don't know where to draw the line, essentially. There's also very little job security, social advantages like health insurance or sick days for people choosing this line of work. So there's very little in terms of safety net when they may be the people that need it the most. And I think because of that, and especially in a post-COVID world, those that are managing teams in small restaurants are shouldering a great deal of responsibility as a result of that. And as an aside, I just wanted to mention that I think that the change in terms of like worker-employer relationships post-COVID, in my mind, is welcomed. I think that despite it making my job maybe more difficult, I think that it's been a necessary shift, and that what you're signing up for is to make people feel safe at work. And so someone might not be the best 100% fit, but maybe that deepens your bonds more than tying someone's worth to only their productivity. I have a few personal anecdotes as well, just to kind of wrap up what I'm talking about, or like give examples. I've had to let go of several staff members because of substance abuse. Like I said, many of us consume alcohol during work hours, but some people don't know when to draw the line. I've worked with people with bipolar disorder that would, lapse in their medication every few months, come to work having not slept, still inebriated from the night before, or not show up at all. And one of the biggest examples, the most flagrant, is that we had to remove one of the initial partners we had when opening because of his addiction problem. And, well, a few other more complicated reasons that I won't go into out of respect for his memory. But he had trouble with substances for a very long time. But despite that, he was at work every day. He was one of the most dedicated chefs I've ever worked with. But it remained that he was, we don't know the full extent of it, but he was probably on drugs the entire time that we were working with him, like every time we saw him, when we didn't see him, just all the time. And so following a particularly bad incident, we had to take the decision to suspend him with pay. And within 2 weeks, he died by suicide in his apartment. So I think that it's really hard to make those decisions of like how you're going to support people and where you're going to draw the line as to when you're becoming an enabler. And those lines get even more blurred when you're not only business partners, but you're friends. I'll end on more of a positive note and say that like I said, I think there is a new wave of owners that are not only committed to taking better care of their staff, but better care of themselves. Because I think it's truly imperative to be setting an example for your staff in that way if you're going to have longevity in this industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, would you like to follow that?
It's very hurtful. Story like that. One of them happened in my restaurant too when I used to be at Agricole. I remember one person don't come to work next day. When they call me, he committed suicide. It's one of the we we had to close for 1 week because all the staff is like, we were like so happy, like, you know, in the restaurant the night before. I was the chef, he was one of my cook. And to know that, like, those stories, like, it's very common in our industry. And it's tough sometimes, but we have to deal with it and trying to see how we can have some help, like, you know, for that. First of all, I just want to say thank you to be here tonight. I'm Chef Paul Toussaint. I own 4 restaurants in town. I start first, like, you know, I wasn't supposed to be in the restaurant industry because I started to study in law for the first 3 years, like, you know, and I passed 3 years at the university and I realized it's not my passion. Because sometimes, you know, when you grow up in the Caribbean or in Haiti, your family wants you to be, you know, successful, but they choose your life. They want to choose your life. But me, is like, after 3 years, I realized it's not what I want to do. It's not for money. I don't want to pass all my life, like, you know, doing something just for the money, not because I love it. And after 3 years, I just sat with my father and I tell him, sorry, Dad, I can't do your life. If you want to be a lawyer, you still have time to go. But me, I can't, and that's why I moved in Montreal, 2010. Since 2010, I'm in Montreal. I study in culinary school after I had the chance to work at Toke, who was like the #1 restaurant at this time in Canada. And it was the best 3 years of my life at Toke. And because this is where I learned, like, you know, the industry, I learned like cooking, and I learned also the passion of like to be sustainable, because they want to work with Quebec, they want to work with farmers, like, you know, from the neighborhood of like Montreal and all that, because they want, like, you know, to support the industry. They want to showcase, like, you know, the Quebec products, and this is the best too. You know, we know that like Japan buy all the best tuna from Quebec, you know, like a lot of like seafood never come in Montreal or in Canada. They go straight like to Japan or to the US, because we have the best like products, but it's so expensive too, and we can't even, us as a restaurant, we can't even serve it because there is a big like demand for them and they become too expensive. And after Turkey, I decided one of my friends called me and tell me, Paul, I know what you want to do, I see your life, but I think if you stay in Quebec, you're gonna be one of them, but not like, you know, you're not gonna create something yourself, like, you know. And he told me, why you don't go back to Haiti, learning your culture, and coming back and create something. And it was the best move, and I go back to Haiti. I stayed like for 4 years in Haiti. And Arcade Fire come on tour in Haiti, and they start their project here in Montreal, and they told me, we need someone like you, we need to be in Montreal with us to do the project. And I come back in Montreal and make it agricole, like, you know, it was like very like the restaurant everyone went to go, and we were like, you know, serving like the Haitian culture, not even like the food, it was the whole culture. When you get inside, it's like you get inside of the whole like Haitian country. And 2020, 2019, Time Out Market, like, you know, they start their project, and they call Agricole first to be part, and Agricole didn't want to do it, and they chose me as the chef because they had like some part of the business. We have Sasha who's here. She was like the one like working with me on the process. And since that, I'm in the Time Out. I opened a second one with the America's Barbecue, and it's doing well. And in 2020 also, I wanted to have one restaurant where I can showcase like my culture more, and I opened Kamúy during the pandemic. It was hard, very hard. Till today, like, you know, we suffer from it, from that, for the COVID moment. And chance I had 80, I have to go back in 80 to pay like my rent here, to do all, because I don't have another job. I can't work somewhere else. and with the COVID, they give me $2,000. With $2,000, I can't even like pay my rent for my restaurant. And it's in downtown. Everyone like, evacuate, I can say, from downtown Montreal because they didn't want to stay in those areas. And it was hard. We closed like for like 9 months. And I have to provide myself like, money for my family and also like take care of my business, like to be sure we can be good after COVID. And since that, I think like, we are in the same situation. COVID happened, yes, and the government decide like, the way they want, like, to, I don't know, for protect, they wanted to protect us, but at the same time too, I think they destroy like, us at the same time. They destroy a lot of business, they destroy a lot of family. How many like restaurant owner who commit suicide, like when they saw like, they can't even have a life and all the debt that they have and all that, it was very hard. I know one of my friend, like, passed away during like the first like 2 months of COVID. He like committed suicide at all. And in the beginning, he started to talk to me, Paul, it's hard. I have a lot of debt. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. And my business just like, be under good move. And now the government have to close everything. It's hard. But I just talked to him like, hey, we are in that situation for a short time. I don't think it's gonna go that far. And unfortunately, we have to do all that. And with the COVID situation, right now, if you are like business, like restaurant owner, I don't know how you do, like, with all that situation, because with the COVID, with the COVID, a lot of problems come after. And I understand them too, with the staffing, business hours and all that. Like a lot of people decide to not like, be part of the restaurant industry. Me, I had like, my 2 chefs left. One of them like go on farming, the other one go on like, construction, because they say we need something stable for our family. We have kids, we have all that. And even with our passion, we can stay in an industry that they destroy. It's like the first thing that they close when COVID happened is like, we close the restaurant. After is always like restaurant, and people from the industry think like, it's gonna be gone for them. And with that, since the outbreak of COVID, this issue have been like, intensified in terms of like, the scarcity of available staff led to a competition push among employees to attract and retain their workforce. The big problem is that everyone needs staff. And they try like, to push it. You're gonna see online like, all those like, oh, we need the staff. We're willing to pay $30 per hour. When we know we can't pay a staff like $30 per hour, but we need to keep our business like, alive. And we push on all that. And today you have those like, big paywall that your restaurant can't even support. And because you want like, to keep, because the biggest problem in Montreal too, when we do our restaurant, you don't make it for money. Other cities like New York, Toronto, people can have one Japanese restaurant, one sushi, one like, Caribbean. They don't part of the culture. But here in Montreal, we make it with love. We make it for us, like, for our culture, to sell our culture. And when it's problem, you don't want like, to call bankruptcy. You want to showcase your culture. You want to continue to do that. Sometimes you have to go in your bank account, like, keep like, moving everything that you have, like, to just like, sell your culture. Be sure like your culture is alive in a city where like all the culture are well represented, And me as a Caribbean Asian chef, I don't want to close my restaurant Kamúy, because like, if I can take money for my other business to support it, I do it because I want to sell my culture, And I think a lot of chefs like faces the same problem today in the industry. They just want their restaurants to, you see them open, but it's not a well-net restaurant. It's not like they don't make money. It's not, and today, this is what we need. We need like support. We need to know when the support gonna come to, because there's a lot of job to do. There's a lot of we need to reconnect people with restaurant, and with the inflation too, it's not easy. I know I can see on the street how many houses for sale, but if I have my house to sell, I'm not thinking of going in a restaurant every night or every 2 nights, And right now it's I never saw like a January and a February like that since I'm in the industry. It's like you're making 20 covers. If you make 20 covers, some nights you are so happy. Like sometimes on Wednesday we open, there is 12 reservation. You say, what? It's like, it's not about your quality or your restaurant get a problem. It's right now the industry, and that's why I think having a panel like this, it's a good time to start thinking about our industry, and outside chef or restaurant owner start the movement to keep our passion alive and keep going what we like to do, what we love to do.
Thank you. Jonathan, would you like to follow up on that? I know you had similar issues you've been thinking about.
Yeah, great lineup, Daphne. My name is Jonathan Metcalfe. I own a restaurant in St. Henry in the southwest of Montreal called Tuck Shop that opened in 2010. I opened as a busser over there and worked my way up through the front of house staff, which is the management of which is my specialty. I'm also a law school dropout, Paul. I had that same conversation with my dad that I was leaving law school. Just because I knew that I loved the field of hospitality. I didn't come from a background where that was something that was encouraged. In fact, it was looked down on. I went back to Tuck Shop to become their first manager. I bought in as a minor partner in 2017, and during the pandemic, which is, as we've seen, has been super tumultuous for everyone, I became an equal partner. And I was able to do that because we make a lot of sacrifices in our field that come at the expense of sometimes our sanity, our time, our energy levels, because it is what we do, as Paul said. Especially in Quebec, we are in a province where it is the art of hospitality is ingrained in us. I credit it to the joie de vivre of being Québécois. When you come into a restaurant in Montreal, and why you should expect the best when you're dining out in Montreal, is that it is a privilege to host you in our home. And if you ever go somewhere where you are not made to feel that way, then you should go to Franquette, because their work is incredible, or any of Paul's restaurants, but when you guys sign those contracts in those big firms, you come by to Tuck Shop to celebrate. But until you get there, if anyone's looking for a summer job, we are hiring for dishwashers or on the floor as support staff. If you guys can carry plates.
I said it first, so I get the CDs first.
I would work with Renée and Louis as well. They'll teach you a lot of transferable skills in hospitality, which I think is often underrated. Which is why when Professor Holmgren, Daphne, and Nikita reached out to me to participate about the sustainability in our field, something that was very near and dear to me has been this question of sustainability in our workforce, which we've seen. This was not coordinated. Is obviously it's super important, and in Montreal, if you want to have success in hospitality, it is all about the people that you work with. It is a bit of a cliche working in restaurants that your colleagues and your staff become your family. It's actually a term that I think a lot of people have found has gone too far, because we act like family around each other, but it is a very professional relationship, and when those boundaries get blurred, that's where you get into trouble. But if we don't take care of the people who we're working with, then the purpose of what we're doing, it's impossible to achieve. the hospitality industry is historically a very transient field. You have people who you look at it as a part-time job, which is great. Again, if you guys just need a couple shifts this summer, we open at 5. Shifts usually starts at 4. I can get you up by 11 before the metro closes. No, but very transient. It is a good way to make money. It's it's fluid. People don't necessarily think it takes a huge commitment. But the reality of it is that it's incredibly demanding. If you want to be good at it, you have to be a little bit like the idea of neurodivergence is like I've recently been diagnosed with that in the last couple of years, and it was a game changer. And you have to be your wiring in your brain has to be a little different. But which is great. You get to see people who are passionate, like Paul, people who are creative. But the other side of it comes at a real expense. And we've seen this exodus in our industry coming out of the pandemic for good reason, because the work-life balance was non-existent. And yet this is a field that, though historically is perceived as temporary or available to anyone, requires an incredible amount of skill. It requires an incredible amount of creativity, charisma, passion, determination, commitment. And I think what's important for us in our field, especially as employers, is how do we get young people to look, or not just young people, but anyone and people of any age, whether they're our clients or future employees or candidates, we work in a real trade. I saw a lot of chefs, I saw a lot of cooks and floor staff that went over to trade school during the pandemic, which is great. Those are wonderful opportunities. At the same time, working on the front of house or working on the line in the kitchen needs to be redesigned or rebranded. These are hard skills, whether you're preparing a Grenobloise. You're going to see my business partner, our executive chef, shuck oysters out there. It's incredibly, he's OCD about it. It's super skilled. And to do that with attention and care consistently while you're doing 120 covers in a 38-seat restaurant and your air conditioning is medium, and do that every night with clients sitting in front of you and you're putting on a show, like that is a skill. And your front of house staff have to be diligent in the operating procedures, and they have to be happy to do it. They have to be knowledgeable. They have to know how to upsell to a back vintage Burgundy, because all of our living depends on it. It's a real skill. It's not just a skill. It's an art form. And why has it been so hard or impossible to erase that stigma? I dropped out of law school, because I have a core memory to my father. Well, that I was applying to Lower Canada College, coming out of elementary school. I'm from the West Island, Montreal. I'm a white guy. I come from a pretty upper middle class family, so I come from a life of privilege, and I'm really grateful for that. But hospitality was not a field that was supported. I sat with him in the car. He said, when they ask you what you want to do when you grow up, what do you tell them? You say, I want to be a chef. And he said, that's you don't tell them that. It's not a career. I love to cook. I ended up being on the front of house. I manage our front of house team at Tuck Shop. But that idea has really stuck with me. And why is that not considered a real career? And the reality is there's no balance to it. Historically, there's no benefits. Not even benefits. A lot of workers' rights have been ignored. The existence of overtime is not really a thing. I'm sure we've all either participated, felt victim to it, or even probably contributed to it. But put people on salary so you don't have to put overtime. Work. You can't take days off. You miss a lot of occasions. So the question when I think about sustainability is if we recognize that, how do we reprogram ourselves and our industry so that we can convince the next generation of people that not only, we're not trying to convince them, we need to look at ourselves and create environments where, and Renée pointed it out, is that it's going to come at our own expense. And margins in restaurant, and Paul, I'm sure Pino will talk about this as Phil, but like margins are, you do not go into restaurants to make money, not in Montreal. So how do we offer benefits? How do we increase our payroll? How to reflect the increased cost of living? How do we make our work environments, not just profitable for our employees, but a place where where they can have a 4-day work week, where we can offer them benefits, while at the same time fighting the cost of inflation, of taxes. We're also, while also being part of a pay system that is now coming, the tip culture that is coming under a lot of scrutiny, rightfully so or not. We can talk about that afterwards if you guys want. I have a lot to say about it. It's a challenging question, and we're fortunate that I know I'm sitting up here with a lot of people who are at the forefront of that revolution. And the one thing that came out of COVID that was great, apart from the vaccine and Franquette's sandwiches and Paul's restaurants at Time Out, is that kind of the revolution that has begun, that has empowered employees in our industry that you should ask. Or not just ask, but demand. And that's a bit of also kind of a catchphrase in our line of work with a lot of our clients that I know Renée and I cater to. Is say if your clients don't ask, they don't get. So they're always going to ask, and they're going to make your life hard a little bit. But if you got to ask, and we have to find ways to create a workforce and a culture where if you break your finger, that you don't have to come in and work because there's people who can back you up, and that there's not going to be a question of am I going to get paid? It's an unfortunate reality that there's a lot of people that miss out on that stuff. But in Montreal is the city where you'll see the start of that, because I know so many people who value what we do, and we all recognize that in order to be the best at what we do, not just as individuals and as business owners, but as a culture that is proud of our hospitality scene and of restaurants, is that you do that by taking care of your people. You can achieve life-changing experiences if, not just by putting in standard operating procedures about how to clear a table and how to open a bottle of wine and what your closing checklist looks like, but by empowering them to really connect with their clients or your guests. And people who come into our restaurant, they're choosing to share a meal in our home, which is an incredible thing if you think about that. That is an insane moment to be sharing, and you get to highlight that. And that's what if we give the people who we work with that sense of security, whether it be financial or emotional or physical, then Montreal, if you thought Montreal had a scene right now, it's only going to get better. And again, I give kudos to the people I'm sitting up with, because they're at the forefront of that. But it is a incredibly tedious and slow progress. From a financial standpoint, it is expensive to offer benefits when your margins are low. And it is not just expensive, it takes time. And everything takes time. And there's always something. Your pipe breaks, you don't have a dishwasher, and you got to be ready for service at 5 o'clock and you're booked. It's tough. And that to me, that's the biggest question in our industry, is how do we not just excel and love what we do, but how do we do that without wanting to run our head into the goddamn door every day? But it's true. It's kind of a bit of a dark panel over here today. But the reality is, we bring that up because what you guys see, it's like you see the razzle dazzle, and we love it. We love having people in. I love the weeds. I love that rush. I love it. But if we want to keep sharing that privilege with everyone, I think it's food for thought next time you guys go out. And if you have a bad experience, you have a great experience. If you have a great experience, let them know to their face. Go back to the kitchen and tell those guys, those men and women, apologies, like that was an incredible meal, and go leave them a 5-star review. If you didn't have a great time, talk to the manager. Anyone worth their salt in Montreal is going to make it up to you. If they want to learn how to do, they want to know what didn't go well, they want to make it up to you. And that's the feedback that you give to employees, you give to the business owners, that's how we get better at our jobs, and that's how we're going to start seeing those incremental changes. We're going to, you know what? I'm a server, I didn't do a great job on that table, but they let me know. I'm not going to hate myself. I'm going to use that information. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to keep coming to work. I'm going to keep loving what I do. Just small things will make a huge difference. But we have a long way to go. But we're in a great place in Montreal, and I look forward to, we'll talk about it probably. Let's go to Paul's place some night, and we'll share thoughts. Anyways, thanks for having me. Go Stingers. Are there any Concordia? Is there a Concordia team here? No, John Molson. Who's our American team? Where are you guys from? Where are you guys from?
Oh.
What school? Washington. All right. What's your team name?
No,
your sports team.
He's a manager.
Go Bears. No, just kidding. Go Huskies, eh? What am I? Northwestern? No? Go Huskies?
No, we were
Stop
the...
pandering.
All right.
We were the
Take it away, Pino.
Wildcats. I love that we're busting so many myths tonight about the restaurant industry and getting really transparent. It's great. Academic perspective, the average profit margin for restaurants in the U.S. is 3 to 5%. Just so you know.
Oh, we know.
People in the room.
We know.
No, I know you guys know, but for the people in the room. So, coming out of business school, saying, oh, we're going to start a restaurant, and you're only likely to make a 3 to 5% profit margin. It's really slim. But I want to hear another perspective, because Pino has a sort of different culinary industry that's working in. Pino, take it off.
Yeah, I was going to start off by saying I've never been along such incredibly talented chefs who managed to spoil everybody's appetite with all of these stories. I don't want to eat anymore. Who here wants to work in a restaurant? I don't think we've lost our future generation here, guys. My name is Pino de Ioia. Very honored to be here as well. Big McGill supporter. I did my undergrad at McGill and did not think I was going to get into the MBA, and accepted a job in our wonderful industry, because you can always get a shift in our industry. And I started off working at a little stand selling BeaverTails at La Ronde, the amusement park. At the time, there were 4 BeaverTails in all of Canada. And I was the manager, which meant I got to mop the floors while the guys were serving the BeaverTails. We are now, my twin brother and my wife are my business partners. And we are now just shy of 200 stores in Canada, a couple in the US, Qatar, and France. We like to think of ourselves as Canada's iconic pastry. We have a wonderful little slogan in the office that says, we prepare pastries, but we sell joy, which probably doesn't mean much after all of these stories. But I can tell you, I lived all that. And as I was on the front lines, as I did make it to the McGill MBA afterwards, and as I worked those front lines, I did not imagine wanting to stay in the industry. But I did, because I think I had the passion, the hospitality in the blood.
The old razzle-dazzle, right?
Or the stupidity. And I'm glad I did. We're more on the commercial end. So jokes aside, not all restaurants and not all concepts should go where we go. Not all are meant to go where we go. We're not as refined, not as creative as you guys get to be. But we do have a lot of fun doing what we do. It's just a more commercial way of doing what they do. To try and change things up and hopefully get you guys a little bit of an appetite and give you some sweet thoughts, if I can put my industry in there. The sustainable challenge that we encountered is all of this is true. We live a more middle-of-the-road existence. And so what I wanted to talk about was the health side of the industry, especially the QSR, quick service side. We get maligned a lot in fast food, and often with good reason. So I'm going to tell you guys a story. 22 years ago, which is probably younger than most of the students here, we celebrated our 25th anniversary at BeaverTails. We're 47 years now, so it's not as special, but thank you. And for our 25th anniversary, we thought, okay, we're going to release a bunch of new flavors. And so we released 3 new flavors. Actually, it was meant to be 2. One was we were opening a lot of stores at Ski Hills, so we released a product called the Avalanche, which is cream cheese icing with score bits. You seem to know exactly what's on there. That's good. And caramel sauce. The cream cheese icing alone is our highest calorie BeaverTail, but you cannot order it alone. You must have it with the score and the caramel. It's delicious. We also, because we're proud Canadians and we're a Canadian company, we thought we will have a new maple BeaverTail. So we have a maple BeaverTail, and it's pretty good quality, but we wanted to really celebrate it and come up with a high content maple syrup BeaverTail. And we called it the Voyageur, and we even got plaid shirts for all our staff in all the stores. And then almost as an afterthought, because my brother and I are both McGill MBAs and so proud of it, we thought, well, there's a health craze afoot. So why don't we do a healthy BeaverTail? Sounds like a good idea. And so we released organic peaches and real whipped cream. As right? Could there be fake whipped cream? Okay. Nothing. Fake. Stop commenting there.
Fucking take over.
Within 3 years of that momentous introduction, the maple BeaverTail was discontinued because our clients preferred the original high sugar and not high maple BeaverTail. The Avalanche is still in our top 3. And the peaches with real whipped cream. This is the first time, never before or after that day, have we ever thrown away product at warehouse. We filled the pipeline, as we say on the QSR side. So all the stores got their lead orders. And then we prepared backup orders, assuming this would sell. And it did not sell. Which then reminds me of another interesting story, which was the time that our marketing team and social media and QSR is quite lively and creative. And for April Fools, they released the kale tail. Right. And we served it in some stores. And I can tell you, we actually received hate mail.
As you should.
You can leave a 1-star Google review for that. I'm just kidding, Pino, I'm sure.
Which reminds me of yet another story, which is, anybody know In-N-Out Burger in the States? So their most popular item at In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger is another healthy chain like BeaverTails, but yeah. Their most popular product is what they call the animal style, which you can't see on any of their menu. It's an off-menu item. And they do that because it's supposed to be part of the whole social media mix. And the animal style, very simply, is In-N-Out has a wonderful, simple menu. They only have like 6 items on their menu. And animal style is if you get the burger with everything. It's 2 patties, the cheese, the onions, the French fries. It's everything in the restaurant on the burger. So we thought we should do something equally crazy. I won't tell you what it was. But we decided against it because we thought, so we don't announce this very publicly, but our number 1 client is actually Mom. And Mom likes to take her kids to BeaverTails as an excuse for her to get BeaverTails. And that's honest to God true, that's what we have in our survey. So we need to market to mom via her kids. And we nixed the product that I will tell you about in a few seconds because we thought mom is going to pick it in front of our stores because this is over the top. And we went home happy until another April Fool's is really traumatic in our company. It's coming up and I can't wait. We woke up on April Fool's to read Huffington Post do a story, true story, true that they did it, and they said there's a Canadian company that's cornered the market on Canadian food. And they've made a beaver tail with a poutine on top and maple syrup on it. And that was the product that we were too afraid to have launched. And so they put it out there in the wild. And we thought, this is crazy. That is our brand DNA. That is actually what we are known for. And we let Huffington Post carry our flag. And so we chickened out a second time. And we didn't release it officially. We were too afraid. And we put it, like the animal style at In-N-Out, we put it off menu. And at our franchisee conference the next year, I stood in front of all the franchisees and I said, we need to be less ashamed of what our brand stands for. We need to embrace what our brand stands for. And so that product that you've been doing off menu, anybody know what we call it? This was Huffington Post's name, the poo tail. You couldn't call it anything else. That's still the name we use to this day. And so I said to our franchisees, we need to own this, and that product needs to come off the off menu, and it needs to go on the main menu. And I was greeted with blank stares because most of our franchisees had never really done it off menu. The thing with off menu is nobody knows it's there because it's not there. And so after that conference, we said, okay, that's it. We're doing it. And to this day, we now have a series of complicated rules, believe it or not, on how we make a beaver tail. And it's got to have 3 layers. We've got to have the main topping, crumble, and drizzle. Mostly for the young people in the audience to give it height for Instagram, because there's nothing worse than a flat product that doesn't photograph well. But also because we need to really go the distance and own indulgence. And that's a fine line that we walk because we all talk about it. And every time I'm very honored to speak at McGill, I wait for the question. But somebody always asks, what about the health craze? And I now have a honest but kind of tongue-in-cheek response for that, and that is that 40% of Americans are on a diet at any given time, which means we target 60% of Americans at any given time. When you come to BeaverTails, you suspend your diet, for good or for bad. Industry-wise, other than the finer products served in real restaurants, I just came across a study this week from Technomic, a big industry research firm. And they talked about the resurgence, especially on the US side, because the Canadian side is still unfortunately behind. But they talked about the resurgence of sales and how we've now reached a sales level that matches pre-pandemic levels. And that resurgence in the US has come with 2 products: burgers and sandwiches. And sandwiches, think Subways. The article went on to kind of explain that the people who think burgers are too unhealthy kind of fool themselves into thinking, I'll have the sandwich instead. I'm a pescatarian myself, so I try to be semi-flexitarian or vegetarian. Starbucks. Starbucks is kind of on a QSR side. Starbucks is a leader in many of the things that you guys talked about. I challenge you, and I mean this, take any of our tails and compare the caloric intake on a beaver tail versus any venti other than the simple black coffee at Starbucks. We are much less. In fact, crazy story, a couple of years before the pandemic, Alberta released a law modeled on California, that said that we have to put our calories on our menu. And so 200 stores is not a very large QSR chain. So we made the decision we're going to put it across the country because it's already hard to manage English and French menus and bilingual menus. So we don't need with and without calories. So we're just going to put it on all our menus. And when we did the research, the bet in the office was we're going to get a call for this. But the call is not the call you'd expect. The call was, the first call, it actually happened as per the bet. A mom called and said, hey, saw your calories on your website, and I'm just curious, is that a half beaver tail or a whole beaver tail? And that's because through zero intent or design, beaver tails are whole wheat, we use canola oil, and we float cook instead of deep fry. So they're actually not that bad for you. We will never, ever say that in our advertising, because that's not why people come to us. So when this mom called, we realized it's almost like we should have calorie packets on the counter. And if you realize how few calories there are in the beaver tails, don't worry, we got you covered. You can add some calories instantly. Walking that line is interesting for us because we're being called upon to reward clients in ways that publicly you'd never think clients want to pig out. McDonald's salad, who remembers that? McDonald's doesn't have salad anymore. McDonald's sells 3 items. Anybody want to guess what they are in any order? Number 1 item. I mean specific brand name. Big Mac, number 1. Nuggets, probably number 2. I think the fries are, I don't have the data on that. I'm talking about brand items, but it's a quarter pounder. McDonald's McRib is not on the menu all the time. Does anybody know why? You guys probably know why. That is, every time they release it, it is their number 1 bestseller. And it is not on a permanent menu because they do not have the supply chain. Now, this is McDonald's. They do not have the supply chain to cover that product on a permanent basis. So we like to think we want the salad. We're going to order the McRib. Starbucks, I mentioned, they should be the flag bearer for this. McDonald's is being sued right now. Sorry, Starbucks is well, I'm sure McDonald's is being sued too. But Starbucks is being sued right now because vegetarian groups are upset that Starbucks charges more for plant-based milk. The truth is, pre-pandemic, Starbucks removed plant. Now, a $7 latte, and you couldn't have it with plant-based milk. But they had taken it off the menu for a while because most people just didn't want it. Burgers and sandwiches lead the way. When asked your number 1 favorite restaurant, it might be relieving Kentucky Fried Chicken did not make the list, but McDonald's was number 1. That's not too surprising because there are 30,000 restaurants, and this was a mass survey in the States. What is interesting is only one no salad place made it. Sorry, no poke bowl place made it. One salad place made it. Sweet Green, which is a bit of a juggernaut in their own right. But when you read the press, when you look at the stock prices, when you look at the volume velocities, we all know about Chipotle. We all know about Popeyes. We all know about Chick-fil-A. We sure know about Shake Shack. One salad place made that list. And so I guess in a different way, we're struggling with this reality that you want to give people what they want, but what they want is not always the right thing. Final small anecdote. I didn't even get accepted into law. Otherwise, I guess I would have dropped off. But I did apply.
I went to UDM though, so it's not.
Okay.
It's not the same challenge on that one.
Thank you, Pino. So what I'm struck by is this theme of fragility here. I mean that very seriously. Fragility, even if McDonald's is even fragile, McDonald's can't even deliver the same food product year round. Then how are we? How is this industry going to survive? But also fragility in the people who work there, and the labor, and in the organizational just survival. So I've been asked to ask a solutions-oriented question. So this is my question: what do we do? Seriously, and how can customers, diners, help create an environment, an organizational environment where this is a type of industry that can survive? And it doesn't, when I was in grad school, one of my mentors said, we often call restaurants the fruit flies of the organizational world because they come and they die really, really quick. They don't have that durability. What is the future? How can we change that? Anyone want to volunteer, or you want me to treat this like class?
Well, I think that, John talked about this a little bit, is that there needs to be a consciousness of the show that's being put on. Truly, that's one thing, and how slim margins truly are. I'll show you my P&L for the last 3 years. It's not fun to look at. So it truly is we're in it for the love of the game. I would say the emotional labor is also, is just something to really consider. And the other thing I was going to say is stop expecting every place to be everything for everyone. Not every place is for everyone. Okay? We specialize in steak frites, and that's our specialty. And guess what? We're spoiled for choice in Montreal. So you don't need to be outside protesting anyone's small business that is maybe making, I don't know, $60,000 in profit, which is eaten up already by reinvestments. Just let small businesses in Quebec be. And if you like one thing, go there for it, by all means. You'll probably find some other things that you like. And if not, then that's great also. But there's no need for hate.
Yeah, be kind. Be kind is a good one, Renee. What was I going to say about that? I believe a lot in the kind of, and I'm sure my colleagues here share this sentiment, a lot in the employee empowerment, especially in our fields. We're gonna butt heads on certain things, but we kind of continue that conversation that employees should be looking out for themselves, and not just looking out for themselves. We should be empowering them instead of waiting for things to get too dire. Support your staff. Get creative in terms of, maybe that benefit is not a health insurance package, but maybe there's something else. We were in touch with a local gym that's not far from us, and they offer us a great, a crazy rate, which is awesome to be able to add that as a benefit. But I think in teaching or training your staff to take ownership in their role is how will be a big part in helping to change that idea that hospitality is a temporary job, whereas it is an art form. It's a highly skilled trade, and I'm not just telling you to set the table this way. I'm going to show you why this is the best way to clear this table, and then wipe it this way using this vocabulary, and then set it this way. It means it's helping your colleagues. It's giving the client a better experience, and it just makes things more smooth. And if we can put that structure into every element of our business, whether you're fast casual or if you're working Take for a while, if owners can embrace that, we'll start to see a return of our most passionate and talented youth into our field.
Yeah, no, like you say, be kind. Is the perfect word. it's crazy. I remember one client come to the restaurant. She eats, and after she said, like, she give us like 1 star and writing, "Oh, I have to eat with my hand, or it's not the type of restaurant I like." But you see my menu, you're coming in another culture. Why you don't let yourself to be in that culture? And so, not even talking to us, like saying, "Hey guys, can I have something?" Like, you see it, okay? We have some shrimp with the, we keep it whole. We not. The best way to eat a shrimp is not like, peel the shrimp. For me, like, it's my way of saying like a fried shrimp or something like this. And the person say, "I have to use my hand and all that," and they give us once. It's not the food is bad or something like this, because the person use her. It's like, that's crazy. And you go online to give 1 star because of that. It's more like they need to, when you go to a restaurant, do research. Know what is their culture and all that. Oh, you come in the restaurant, oh, it's too loud. But the restaurant is like a music. They put it like far, like, music and all that, and it's loud. Why you come? You want me, like, all other clients accepted it. One person said like, "How you should, like, bring the music down and all that." No, everyone accepted. Only you can you can accept other people. Not everyone have to accept you. Like, hey, respect the other people. It's like we have that in the industry. Like, people think like, when they come in the restaurant, it's their restaurant. It's like they I don't know. Or some of them too. The biggest thing right now, they come in a restaurant, they buy. If they are a group of like 2 or 3, they spend like $300 or $400. You should offer them a shot. It's like, if you don't do that, it's look like, oh, you don't do nothing. You should offer them something for free. No. Everything, like, we pay for everything to serve you. Why you ask us to give it to you for free? Because you spend, when you go to Gucci store, you buying your shoes, you never ask them for a free pair. And I never think.
I'm all about giving gifts, but only if they are not asking for it.
Yeah.
I love giving gifts.
Yes, I want to do it, but I don't want people, like, to ask for it. Or at the end, some people even, like, do comments. "Oh, we spent $500 that they don't give us not." No, you come to spend your money. You are for your money. Why you ask me to give you free? I don't know.
But at the end of the day, we're all clients here. We're all guilty of that. So ultimately, we all have to own it, and we all have to be aware that we're all causing these problems. I mean. We all, again, back to the environmental side, we're all trying to be environmental, and yet we're all buying fast fashion jeans that take 1,400 liters of water to make, and we blame somebody else.
There's no ethical consumption under capitalism, so...
Yeah, it's like, and we cater to the 1%ers who are racing us to, in inevitable class warfare here.
Okay, spoken like some sociologists.
I will say, Daphne, but hosting events like this, from my background, my training, I would never in my life ever talk about these topics out loud. To peel back the curtain of hospitality it's a real taboo. That's not our job. Our job is to host you and to be happy to do so. And we're so happy. I love it. We really do love it. Like, we all really do. I think we let that go a little too far. We're always saying yes because we want to say yes. We're so flexible. We're malleable because we want to make you guys happy. But by having conversations like this, people might start to realize, like, hey, when you ask for that modification on your 5-top at 7:30 on a Friday, it really jams up the kitchen. It's going to jam up other tables. And that flip that we have booked at 9:30, like, if I don't hit that, I need to turn your table. Like, I'll say, when you guys be conscious of reservation time, especially at finer dining restaurants, like, it makes a huge difference. If you're going to be late, let us know. We'll always do what we can to find some time, but just understand the rules of engagement there. But by having these conversations, we can understand, like, hey, let us know about that allergy so that we can remove that element or that restriction. If you can tell us you're open with us, we're going to give you the best experience. But by having so we can take care of you. But by having these conversations like at this roundtable, like these are a big first step in terms of how we're going to see positive changes in our industry. So kudos to you guys for organizing this. I'll say that.
Amazing. Thank you. And I think these conversations are happening more. I mean, the New York Times just did an interview with 50 chefs about, the truth, the setting expectations for the consumers, what it's really like in the backstage and revealing that. I think we have some time for questions in the audience. If anyone wants to ask a question, we have microphones that are floating. There's someone right there.
Yes, hello. I'm just speaking to the profit margin that you guys were saying. I've noticed when I go to a restaurant, sometimes they have try our other restaurants, like the Antonopolis Group or something like that. Are they really not making money? I understand there's small businesses, but it seems to me that there's also these people that have a lot of restaurants under their group, And it's hard for me to believe that BeaverTails isn't making a lot of money. Can you speak to that?
I would say that John's restaurant and my restaurant are independent. We're not under an umbrella that will often give you much more buying power in terms of stupid shit like toilet paper and things. But those things add up. And so if you're buying for 10 restaurants, 12 restaurants, 14 restaurants, 50 restaurants, all those things are going to eat into your profit margin if you're a small restaurant buying it independently. And especially if you're like us, having someone go out and buy it, if someone forgot to put it on a list or something stupid like that. So that's really a big part of those restaurants making more money than small restaurants is buying power.
Yeah, and she's right. We're a formula. So I know exactly what they're living through, and I get that, and I don't belittle that in any way, but we don't experience that. Our franchisees are running, we target our franchisees to make 15 or 20% profit, which I know they don't want to hear, but...
Yeah. But you got to talk about that too. I mean, it's two different ballgames: fine dining versus fast casual. It's not it's maybe similar values but different economic realities, which is totally normal to say. Don't be shy, Pino.
Partly through
get the bag, man. Let's go.
Partly it is through purchasing, but partly there's a limit to what you'll pay for even the finest dining. Whereas when you're telling a story like ours, it's such a bigger canvas. We're selling donuts for $96 a dozen. So there's only two ways to reduce food costs. You can either pay less for your ingredients or charge more for your product. But when you're telling our kind of story, we can charge more, and we have a group purchasing that gets us lower. But there's a different level of satisfaction and creativity. And when you go to celebrate a special birthday, you're not... Well, actually, special birthdays, you do actually come to BeaverTails, but you generally go to a finer restaurant.
And it's also about the quality too. More you're doing fine dining, or you're trying. Example, I have for some Time Out Market. It's easy. You got a menu. It's the same products every you can block products. You can tell, okay, the supplier knows I will pass 20 cases of fries every week. Hey, that's okay. He can tell you, the price gonna go up. Do you want to buy for the next six months or something like this? You can. But when you're doing you change your menu every month or every week and all that, price change. Even beef. From COVID to it's about 100%. When you buy it was $16 for something the kilo. Today is about $32.
And they'll try to pull one over on you too when you're ordering it week to week. Not 1 week cauliflower is $6, then it's $13 the next week, and they won't tell you that when you're reordering.
No, this is it too. It's you just call and you say I need cauliflower, and you don't understand. The same thing happened with the. Last year, there's a lot of problem, with salads, lettuce, all of that. It was I never saw that in my life. You can't even serve people salad in the market because, the U.S., this is the thing I don't understand. They start to grow them here. They send them in the U.S. and bringing back here. I don't understand, but it was that. Now, a pack of salad you buy for $12 past $25. You can't go the price. You can't tell the clients. Last week it was like, oh, you pay the salad $8, and next week I will tell them it's $16. Yeah. Now you just accept to lose, to just help your client, support your client. That's why we keep losing money easy like that in the industry, because we want to support the people that we receive. We want to continue our business, and all those movements don't help us. And I think maybe we have to change this.
Well, maybe on that note, we can put you and some other people to work serving out the food that's coming up.
Nice segue, Daphne.
I'm glad that this panel has stimulated so much discussion and conversation. This concludes the opening ceremony for our first international case competition. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. So I'm Nikita Boston Fisher. I'm the Associate Director for the Laidley Center for Business Ethics. I'd like to give a huge thank you to our Associate Dean and Undergraduate Program Director, Professor Benjamin Croteroux, for giving the opening remarks, and for Professor Daphne, Demetry, and the panelists for sharing their time and expertise with us. Thank you to everyone for attending this evening. To our out-of-town guests, again, welcome to Montreal and to Desautels. We are so glad to have you here. If you have any questions during your stay, please email us, ask the student helpers outside. And competing teams, please remember to meet Professor Joshi at 8 p.m. to draw your presentation order for tomorrow morning. I don't want to stand between you and your dinner any longer. So please head into the atrium and enjoy the reception. All the food is from the panelists up here. And Professor Lindsay will say one more thing before you go.
I'm just going to quickly thank the person from whom we just heard. So I want to thank Nikita Boston Fisher, as well as the other organizers. So Pritika Joshi, whom you've heard from quite a bit, and Brian Wenzel are the organizing committee for tonight's event. I'm the director of the center, the Laidley Center for Business Ethics and Equity. We have events like this throughout the year. We encourage you to come to as many of them as you can. I'm also a professor in the Faculty of Management, where I teach and coordinate our mandatory ethics course. And some of my students are here tonight from that course, and some former students are here as well. So I'm extremely grateful to the team of people who have put this evening together. Thank you to Stuart and his team, and to Joelle Moses, who I believe is here as well, who worked on the outreach and much of the coordination for tonight. And thank you again to this wonderful, incredibly talented group of people who spoke candidly tonight, which is not always something that is possible and not always something people are willing to do, especially when they know they're being recorded. And I'm extremely grateful to this group for their willingness to be so candid, and this is something that I advocate with the center, and an event we had last night, I advocated something very similar. I think it's important for us to speak candidly and transparently about the ethical challenges that we're facing in all of our industries today. So thank you for helping us with that tonight. And now we get to celebrate the wonderful things that our work, and more importantly, their work, makes possible for us, and to support the important culture of the hospitality industry. These restaurants are so crucial to the lifeblood of a city. They're so crucial to what makes us feel as though everywhere we walk, we're in a new home. But this is really important for us to support these community establishments that are so crucial to our sense of celebration and life and self. And Benjamin did such a great job of talking about how important food is to us. So thank you very much for making that possible. And let's go eat it and enjoy it now. Thank you, everyone.